One of the most valuable skills in transactional analysis is the ability to recognize ego states, both in ourselves and in others. At first, this may seem like a theoretical exercise. However, in practice, it quickly becomes a powerful tool for understanding communication, behavior, and relationships. Eric Berne described four main ways to diagnose ego states: behavioral, social, historical, and phenomenological. He emphasized that while each method has its value, the most accurate understanding comes from using them together, not in isolation. In fact, Burns suggested a natural sequence. We begin with what we can observe and then deepen our understanding by checking it through other perspectives.
The first and most immediate way we recognize ego states is through behavior. We observe what is happening externally, the words a person uses, the tone of their voice, their posture, gestures, facial expressions. At first glance, this seems simple. We look, we listen, and we make a conclusion. For example, imagine a person sitting upright, both feet firmly on the floor, with a calm and steady gaze. Their face is relaxed, their tone neutral, and their speech clear and logical. All of these elements together suggest that the person is likely operating from the adult ego state. But things are not always that straightforward. Now imagine that the same person is speaking in a very logical and structured way. Their words sound adult. However, their body tells a different story. They are slightly slouched, tapping their fingers nervously, tilting their head, perhaps even avoiding eye contact. Suddenly, the picture changes. Despite the logical language, their nonverbal signals may indicate an adapted child state. This is why no single signal is enough on its own. It is the combination of signals that creates a reliable diagnosis. Behavioral diagnosis is powerful because it is immediate and practical. In everyday life, especially in communication and training contexts, this is often the main tool we rely on. But it is only the beginning. If behavioral diagnosis answers the question, "What do I see?" then social diagnosis asks, "How do people respond to this?" Human interaction follows patterns. When one person communicates from a particular ego state, it tends to invite a complementary response. For instance, when someone speaks from a parent position, giving instructions, setting rules, or judging, others often respond from the child. They may become compliant, defensive, or even resistant. If someone says, "You should do it this way," and the other responds, "Okay," in a subdued tone, we are likely observing a parent-child dynamic. On the other hand, when communication comes from the adult, it often invites an adult response. What are the options here? Let's look at the facts. Here, the interaction becomes balanced and reality-based. This method can be surprisingly revealing. Sometimes we do not clearly see our own ego state, but we can notice how others consistently respond to us. For example, if a manager observes that employees either become submissive or quietly resistant, this may suggest that the manager is often communicating from a controlling parent, even if they did not consciously intend to. By shifting their approach, for instance, moving into adult communication, the responses of others begin to change. In this way, social diagnosis becomes not only a diagnostic tool, but also a pathway for change. Behavior and interaction show us what is happening now, but historical diagnosis asks a deeper question. Where does this come from? In this method, we explore the origins of a person's patterns. What were they like as a child? What were their parents or authority figures like? What messages did they internalize? For example, imagine someone who becomes tense, withdraws, and says, "I'm confused. I can't think." Behaviorally, this may look like an adapted child response. To deepen the understanding, we might ask, how did you feel as a child when someone asked you to think or perform? The person might recall an experience. My father used to make me read out loud and then laugh when I made mistakes. Suddenly, the present reaction becomes meaningful. The current behavior is not random, it is a replay of an earlier adaptation. In another situation, a person might sit upright, lean forward, and speak in a firm, authoritative tone. That's incorrect. Let me explain how it really is. If others respond by shrinking, lowering their gaze, or becoming defensive, we may already suspect a controlling parent. Historical questions can confirm this. Does this posture or tone remind you of someone from your childhood? Often, the answer comes with recognition. Yes, that's exactly how my father spoke. Historical diagnosis helps us see that ego states are not abstract concepts. They are living recordings of past experiences. While historical diagnosis involves remembering, phenomenological diagnosis goes one step further. It is about re-experiencing. Instead of simply talking about the past, a person begins to feel it again, the emotions, the sensations, the intensity of the original experience. Byrne used the term phenomenological in a specific way, to describe a state where a person fully enters an ego state and experiences it as if it were happening now. For example, a person recalling a childhood situation might begin to feel the same frustration or anger they once felt. They may say what they were unable to say back then. This is not fair. In a therapeutic setting, this might even involve physical expression, raising the voice, expressing anger, or releasing suppressed emotion. At that moment, we are no longer observing the child. We are witnessing it directly from the inside. This method provides the deepest level of understanding, but it is also the most sensitive and is typically used in coaching or therapy contexts.
Bringing it all together. Each of these methods offers a different lens: behavioral, what we can observe; social, how interactions unfold; historical, where patterns originate; phenomenological, what is experienced internally. No single method is sufficient on its own. The most accurate recognition comes when we combine them. What do I see? What is happening between people? Where does this come from? What is being experienced inside? In practice, we often begin with behavior, then confirm or refine our understanding using the other three. Practice. Learning to recognize ego states. Please pause the video, write down your answers in whatever format is most convenient for you, on your phone, tablet, or computer. If you are taking this course with an instructor, save your answers and send them to your trainer as part of your homework. Important note: do not try to be right. This exercise is not about perfect diagnosis. It is about developing awareness. With practice, you will begin to recognize ego states more naturally, in yourself first and then in others. Step 1. Observe a real situation, or you can use the situation from the previous module. Recall a recent interaction that felt emotionally charged, uncomfortable, or simply memorable. It can be from your personal life, your work, or even a small everyday conversation. Briefly describe: what happened, what did you say, what did the other person say. Step 2. Behavioral observation. Now look at the situation from the outside as if you were an observer. Ask yourself, what did you notice about your tone of voice? What was your body posture? What words or phrases did you use? Based on this, which ego state do you think you were in? Do the same for the other person. Step 3. Social clues. Now shift your attention to the interaction itself. How did the other person respond to you? Did they become compliant, defensive, logical, emotional? What does their response suggest about your ego state? Step 4. Looking deeper. Historical reflection. Ask yourself gently, does this reaction feel familiar? Have you reacted like this before? Does it remind you of someone from your past? You don't need a perfect answer. Just notice what comes up. Step 5. Inner experience. Finally, return to yourself. What were you feeling in that moment? Did you feel small, confident, pressured, free? Did your thoughts sound like your own or like someone else's voice? Step 6. Integration. Now bring everything together. What ego state were you most likely in? What about the other person? And most importantly, if you were in the same situation again, would you choose to respond from the same place or differently?